Hi everyone, I'm Elizabeth and today I want to show you how to make the zigzag lozenge stitch. The stitch is probably the best stitch for scrap yarn to make blankets and other things for your project. The stitch has a 4-row repeat, but technically there's only 2 stitch repeat here. I will explain them along the way. The basic crochet skills that we need here are chains, half double crochet and double crochet. So I'm speaking in US terms, so that's how I learned to crochet, so I'm going to stick with that. And then those basic skills are transformed into some fancy stitches. As you can see, we have a V-stitch and the cluster stitch. So they are put together to create a lovely design. So to achieve this pattern, it requires at least 3 colors, but you can do it in 1 color if you want to, or however many if you have lots of scrap yarns in different color range. So the reason why I said 3 colors, let me show you here. Now that we know that there is technically 2 row repeat, we also want to offset the colors by 1 extra palette, and the result is this. The cluster stitches and V stitches swap each other's stitches. As you can see here, the V stitch is in cream, and then the next time I use the cream one, it becomes a cluster stitch. Same way with the blue one, and same way with the mustard one. So that's how the pattern are offset. For this project I have used the Women's Institute yarn. So this is the yarn here in this particular color, which is turquoise, and then I've got the mustard one as well as the cream one. So this is my favorite as well, the cream one. So for this tutorial, I will be using 3 random colors of my Stylecrafts special yarn. So this particular yarn is the fondant color. So this is the Stylecrafts special Aran yarn. And this one is the pistachio. So it's also Stylecraft, and just the parchment, which is one of my favorite color. And there you are. As well as the 4mm crochet hook and pair of scissors. So let's begin. So to begin, I'm going to make a slip knot. So the zigzag lozenge stitch is a multiple of 2 plus 1 plus 2 for the base chain. So for this tutorial, I'm just going to chain 30 as 1 plus 2, and that will give us 33 chains. So now I have 33 chains. So from here I'm going to skip the first 2 chains. From the hook, this loop is not counted as a stitch. So I'm going to yarn over, and into the 3rd chain I'm going to make a half double crochet. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Now I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull it through all 3 loops on the hook. Now I'm going to skip the next chain, and then I'm going to make a half double crochet into the next chain. And then I'm going to chain one, and then I'm going to make one more half double crochet into the same chain stitch. As you can see here, this is a V-stitch, so we are going to call it half double crochet V-stitch. So to proceed, I'm going to skip the next chain here, and I'm going to make a V-stitch into the next chain. So this is a half double crochet V-stitch, which is one half double crochet, chain one, and then one half double crochet into the same chain. And we're going to do that all the way across. I'm going to skip the next chain here and make a V-stitch into the next chain. Skip the next chain and then a V-stitch into the next chain. So we're here in the last two chains. So what we are going to do on the last chain here, so we're going to skip that chain. On the last chain, I'm just going to make two half double crochets. So this is our row 1. It's a row of half double crochet V-stitch. So I'm going to tidy up so we can proceed with row 2, and I'll see you in a bit. So to continue for our next row, I'm going to join the green yarn into the pink one. As you can see here, we have made our last half double crochet. So I'm going to undo that. As you can see, this is the last 3 loops here. So and then I'm just going to join the green yarn. So from here I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, and then I'm going to turn my work, and then into the first stitch here I'm going to make 1 double crochet. So this chain 3 here will be counted as our first double crochet, and now I'm going to chain 1. You can see here we have the first V-stitch here. So into the chain 1 space of that V-stitch, I'm going to make 3 double crochets together. So to do that, I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to insert my hook into chain 1 space. I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. I've got 3 loops on my hook. Yarn over and pull it through the first 2 loops. So now I've got 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over, insert it back into the same chain 1 space, yarn over and pull up a loop. and then we're going to do the same. So now I've got 4 loops on my hook here. I'm going to yarn over and pull it through the first 2 loops. I've got 3 loops on my hook here, and then I've got 2 stitches into the same chain 1 space, and then we're going to add 1 more. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop. I've got 5 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull it through the first 2 loops. Now I've got 4 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull it through all 4 loops on the hook. Then secure with a chain 1. So this is our first double crochet cluster stitch. So here we are going to call this our V stitch for this pattern, and this particular stitch here we're going to call it as our cluster stitch. Now that we have the chain 1 here, and into the next V stitch, into the chain 1 space there, I'm going to make 1 more cluster stitch. And then secure with the chain 1. And I'm going to do that all the way across into the middle of the V stitch. So not between the 2 V stitches here, not this stitch, but between that particular V stitch. So not on the space between the V stitches. So our next stitch here is this one. So we've got the chain 1 space here. So we're going to make our next cluster stitch. Then again into the next V stitch. So we're going to do that all the way across. So now we are on the last stitch here. All we need to do is make 2 double crochets together. That's 1, 2, and then before we continue with the last loop here, I'm going to change into our next color. So this is my next color. Here to begin round 3, I'm going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and then I'm going to turn my work. So as you can see here, I've got a chain 1 space here, and straight into that we're going to make our first half double crochet V stitch. Then we're going to work our next V-stitch into the next chain 1 space. And into the next chain 1 space, going to make our next V-stitch. So we're going to do that all the way across. So I'm here now on the last stitch. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to make 1/2 double crochet into these turning chains here, and we're not going to yarn over and finish the half double crochet because we are going to attach the pink again. As you can see, we only need 3 colors. I have made the order here pink, green, and then parchment. So that's the color of my yarn. Pink, green, parchment. So that will be the order of the colors of the yarn all the way across. So I'm going to insert my pink back in, and then I'm going to chain 3 to begin with. Then I'm going to turn my work and into the V-stitch here. I'm going to make the next cluster stitch. So as usual, the 3 double crochets together, same as in round 2, and then secure with the chain 1. So you can see here, when we first used the pink one, it was the V-stitch, but this time pink one is the cluster stitch. So that will alternate all the way across as you grow your row, you grow your height. So they will never be, so the green one will never be a cluster stitch all the time, nor the parchment. So at one point in time in the height of your project, they will alternate each other between the V-stitch and the cluster stitch. Let's continue and we'll see what will happen next. So technically there's only 2 row repeats. So it's the V-stitch and the cluster stitch, but since the pattern is half a stitch offset every 2 rows, you'll see that we need the repeat is truly a 4-row repeat, because the stitch at the beginning of each row tend to change. So as you can see here, this cluster stitch is along this column here, and then this pink cluster stitch is now into this space here. So it's half a stitch offset, which is why it's a 4-row repeat. But technically you only need 2 learn two stitches, so the V-stitch and the cluster stitch. I will continue this all the way across. So, what do you think is the next color of my yarn? Yes, you guessed it right, it will be the green yarn. I'm going to repeat that because my yarn there is not fully in. So we're going to repeat our chain there. So I'm here on the last V-stitch, so I'm going to make someone. Here we go again. I'm just going to fix it. I'm going to make the last cluster stitch here. And then I'm going to work into this chain here, turning chain, 1 double crochet, which will match up our chain 3 here. So as usual, I'm not going to finish the double crochets here because we're going to attach the green one. So here again, it's my green one. So I have joined it there. And then, and you guess what? What is our next row here? Should be the V-stitch row. So here I'm going to chain 2. So if you are on the cluster stitch, the beginning, the turning chain is chain 3. But if you are on the V-stitch row, you only have chain 2. So turn your work. On here now, I'm going to make 1 half double crochet into the first stitch. So that the chain 2 will count as our first half double crochet, and then another half double crochet into that same stitch there, the first stitch. Now to continue, we're going to make a V-stitch into the chain 1 space here. As you can see here, our green is now the V-stitch. So previously it was the cluster stitch. So V-stitch here and then into the next chain 1 space and into the next chain 1 space and into the next chain 1 space all the way across. So this is a V-stitch half double crochet or half double crochet V-stitch, whichever you want to call it. One of the technique here at the beginning of each row, so in row 1 we have 2 half double crochets, and then into the next row we have 2 double crochet. That means then the next row has 1 half double crochet and then 1 double crochet into the next 2 consecutive rows. So 2 2 1 1. That means the next row has 2 half double crochet. So for the next row there will be 2 double crochets, and we'll do that. We go along, I'll show you that. So we know for our next row, which is the cluster stitch, and then we are going to use the parchment color yarn. As you can see, the colors are also offset. Because it's a 4-row repeat, and then we offset it by 1 row, and so the colors start to offset as well. So I'm here now into the end of the row. Here I'm just going to make 2 half double crochets, and then I'm not going to finish that last stitch because I'm going to attach the parchment yarn. And then we are going to chain 3. Then I'm going to turn my work, and then I'm going to make 1 double crochet into first stitch. And then my first cluster stitch into the first stitch here. And then secure with the chain 1. Okay, into the next V stitch here I'm going to make the cluster stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and make more rows here, and I will show you when I have some heights, and I'll see you in a bit. So here I have made some heights of the zigzag lozenge stitch, and as you can see here we started with the V stitch in pink, but when we start using the pink again it becomes the cluster stitch, and then back to V stitch there, and the same as with the green cluster stitch, the next stitch becomes the V stitch and then back to the cluster stitch again, and same with the parchment color, which is the V stitch, then the cluster stitch, then the V stitch. So as you can see here there's a 4-row repeat, but as I said technically there's only 2 rows because each row is half a stitch offset, so we need to account that as well when we repeat each row, because as you can see the cluster stitch here is aligned to this space, and this cluster stitch is aligned to the space between there. So it's like alternating each other. And the same with the colors as well. Since we have 4 row repeats and we change the colors in 3 rows here, so we didn't use 4 colors. That's why the colors as well are offset, so which is a nice combination. So what do you do with your yarn ends? So here I have made some example. This is something that you can do, so for you to avoid tidying up your yarn ends, or if you have more patience, you want to hide them all in between the stitches, of course you can do that. But if you want it freely, you can do this way as well. So here I got one last here, and then I'm going to show you how I've done it. So here first I'd like to make a twist just to secure. My hook here, and got the 2 colors, and I'm just going to insert my hook there and pull the 2 yarns through. You can see here I've got the loops here, and then I'm just going to grab the yarn, all the yarns there, and then pull it through inside the loop, and then just tidy up. And I can do the same on the other side here. So there you have it. I hope you like this pattern. It's very ideal for scrap yarns to create a beautiful pattern for your blankets and other projects. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.